Hello again. This is David Clayton with the second of these videos, The Way of Beauty process. So, who is the Way of Beauty process for? Some of you may be asking, do I qualify? Will it work for me? Am I suited to it? Can it guarantee results for me? That's what we hope to answer here. In one sense, we can answer that very quickly. And I would say that anyone could benefit from this. It's a process that leads us to God, and God is the answer for all things, we might say, in the broadest terms. Uh, However, I'm going to qualify it a little and say there are no guarantees in the spiritual life, in spiritual processes, because as with in these practices, as with all, it's not going to suit the temperament of every person, which means that it won't lead them into a response that allows God to work in their lives. That's nobody's fault. It's not suited to all people, and we don't claim that. Um, but also, there is simply no accounting for what goes on in a person's heart, which is what we're seeking to transform here. And so, in that sense, there's always some unpredictability about it. What we can say is that for those who are drawn to it and give it a sincere effort, what I have observed is that most are likely to benefit in some way, and many, if they really give themselves to this, are likely to get great rewards. I just say that based upon my own experience. That's what happened to me and what I've seen happen to many other people. So we think that that would be true for you too. So what sort of people are drawn to this and seem to benefit from it? The people who are most drawn to it, I have noticed in the past, those who are going to get the most out of it are usually those who feel that something is missing in their lives. Perhaps they're looking for a new direction. They may have some underlying problem which they're struggling to overcome. This can help with those sort of things. But also, it could just be a general sense that they need something more in their life, a deeper meaning, or a need to establish community around them. They're feeling isolated and alone, looking for some way to connect with people more deeply. The people who are looking for these reasons and are open to the process, typically I've seen benefit a lot. By responding to God's unique call in your life, this process can give you all three things, I would say: a community, a deeper meaning, and a new direction. Many of us have found that it brings clear direction to what you do and fills it with purpose and leads to a joyful life. When that happens, we naturally start attracting like-minded people to us. And that's precisely what happened to me when I started this at the time of speaking, over 37 years ago now. I was in my 20s. I was very lonely, and I just did not know how to change that. And I knew I needed something. I just didn't know where to go. And it gave me purpose and joy, and a consolation that came through God that relieved my loneliness. And then through that, then I was able to relate to people better, and it created a community of people around me as well. And my experience is that you can have ups and downs going along the way, but provided that I keep applying myself to these habits as a broad description, I keep those benefits. The results come through the practice and always direct me back onto the spiritual path. I think that's the pattern in spiritual processes. We always need to do them. We don't learn something and then just rest on our laurels. Because of concupiscence, we are always likely to stray away from God. And so we need something that's going to bring us back. That's why we go to church every Sunday, for example. We don't just go once having become a Christian. So no one is barred from doing this. I think this point needs to be to be made that if you want to do it and you're interested in doing it, with other things being equal, it's open to you. So I'd encourage you, if you're curious or you just like to know whether it would work, just give it a go and see. All of these are excellent reasons for giving it a go. There's no bad reason, I would say. That said, I have noticed that those who commit to this often do well because and very often there are certain things going on in their lives that seem to be part of the people who show an interest in this. This doesn't mean it has to be you, but I've noticed that it works for people who are looking for this reason. First of all, just people who are generally stuck in their work life or their personal life and want to enrich it, and maybe not even have dramatic change. Perhaps they're looking for a change in direction, or perhaps they're just looking for some way of enriching what they're already doing. But there is a sense of being stuck and needing some guidance to get out of that. That might be, for example, empty nesters, people whose families have left home and they're looking for something to apply all this free time to, and a general sense that a large part of their purposes of their lives has gone. So you get a lot of midlife people, people newly retired, people who are gradually easing into retirement and thinking about what to do. So these are at the sort of, should we say, latter stages. I speak of one with a bit of grey hair, latter stages of their life rather than the early stage. And those also, this can happen at any stage, who have a desire to give back and contribute more to society, but aren't sure how to do it. Many of us have found that the greatest reward of this process comes later, when we're in a position to mentor others and help others in the group situation. It becomes a source of great joy to see others benefiting too. And then, of course, I think one that you would expect, a category of people, young people, people who are interested in trying to work out what their direction would be in their future lives. So people who are about to go to college, or people graduating from college and are looking for some sort of direction as they contemplate entering the world of work. So it's good for those people. We have now adapted this program through that curriculum that we've mentioned, that we've adapted for presentation for high school, and it would work just as well for middle school students as well, and helps them to, in some sense, to at least give them principles, so when they start looking, they can start to discover that path. They may not be wanting to decide on a career at this stage, but it will help relieve that anxiety about the future that so many young people have, and reassure them that God is looking after them, and if they do their best, there is a path for them. And then later on, they can discern, as they get experience in life, maybe they can discern more precisely what that might be. And in that sense, what it does, and this is really a reassurance for parents, I would say, if they adopt these habits, this can be a buffer of faith that will help them in the future. Inevitably, as they get older, they're going to have to emerge and go out into the world, start taking more and more responsibility for their own decisions. And this will give them some principles to help them do that, and to go into the world joyfully and engage with it constructively rather than fearfully. And so potentially this will equip them to make their journey in future life richer and more enjoyable, but beginning right now. It helps us to enjoy the present. One point that needs to be made, if you have a sort of crisis of some sort, maybe some particular person that you're struggling dealing with, all sorts of things can happen in people's lives. Very few people sail through life without something coming up. We all have families, we all have people we have to deal with. We're all subject to the difficulties of work and career. So if there's something that you're struggling with, this will help, I think. But I want to make the point that you don't need a crisis for this to happen. Uh, there is a phrase, isn't there? Never let a good crisis go to waste, which is made by sort of cynical political operators. But I think we can say that in our own lives, that if it helps us to turn to God, what seemed like a bad thing can be perhaps an evil, but nevertheless one that God has allowed, so that through this and our response to it, we can come closer to Him. But it doesn't need to be like that. If you just simply, your life is going okay, but you'd like it even to be even better, even more joyful, even more creative than it is now, even more beautiful, then that's good reason to do it as well. It'll take you from where you are to a better place, I believe, if you commit to these. Certainly, I can't promise that will be the case, but I will say that I've seen it work for others who've done this, and I believe there's every chance it will work for you. People often ask about the nature of the faith that they need. Do I need to be a Christian, or do I even need to believe in God for this to work? Well, the answer is yes and no. If you have a faith and you have a moral code, that is a great advantage. So it's good that all that is established, and this will help you to apply what you believe and the ideals you're striving for in your life, and to reach for those ideals constructively. So it's a great help if you do. But if you don't, this need not be a handicap. I was an atheist when I came, so you don't need to be a practicing Christian or even to be sure that God exists to begin this process. When I started, I was a bitter atheist. I certainly wasn't ready to call Christ my savior or anything even remotely close to that. I'd have run a mile if I thought that was where I was leading. But I was desperate. I knew I needed help, and I was beaten enough. My pride had been battered enough to be open-minded, to be ready to listen and take direction from somebody that I trusted. And I was willing to take the actions that were consistent with the idea of God. That's about as far as it went. So I did pray. I did do the meditation, the gratitude list and so on that this process suggests. And I was ready to take the actions. And what I discovered is that by doing this, that God did exist. The process worked gradually, but perceptibly. And through that, I felt that there was something moving in my life. And initially, I wondered if it was just sort of a psychological process that was just a mental construct, act as though God exists and it's affecting me mentally, and so I feel better. That might have been the case. It might still be the case. But at a certain point, I concluded, in fact, that the reason this works is because the explanation that is given is true, that there is a God, that God loves me, and that He's working in my life. And these actions are a way that forms me to accept that gift of love from God that I wouldn't otherwise know how to accept. So that helping hand of God is always there, always was there, but I wasn't aware of it, and I didn't know how to reach out and take it. This is what these practices do. But what opened the door for me was just being willing to take the action as though He existed. So you may be one of those, or in the future when you're helping others, you may come across people like that. Just let them do that. You don't need to proselytize the Christian faith at this stage if they're not ready for it. Just let the process work on them if they're willing to take the actions. So as I say, wherever you are on the spectrum of belief, committed Catholic, like I am now, or whether you're simply ready to act as though God exists, as I was at the beginning, that is enough to start. We won't force belief on anybody. We simply invite you to be open and take the small steps I took and see what happens. This path really is a gift, and people are free, of course, to reject that gift. It's the gift of that, if it works for you, will give you contact with God, the gift of faith, if you receive it, and above all, the gift of a beautiful, joyful life. And that is the path that it gave for me, and I very much hope it'll be the path that it offers you. If that sounds like something you want, then I think you're in the right place. Please come on board and give it a go. Just start with that daily routine, and see what happens.